Today, with hours to go until a ceasefire in Gaza, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu warns Israel reserves the right to return to war.
Storm recovery efforts begin in New South Wales after a natural disaster declaration.
A man found guilty of the rape and murder of an Indian doctor, which sparked widespread anger.
Thousands march in the US Capitol against incoming President Donald Trump ahead of his inauguration.
Oh my God, he's missed it.
Australia's last man standing, Alex de Minaur, through to the fourth round of the Aussie Open.
And Triple J celebrates 50 years as the radio station for young Australians.
Good morning. It's Sunday, the 19th of January. I'm Fauziah Ibrahim.
And I'm Michael Tetlow. You're watching Weekend Breakfast from Gadigal land in Sydney. Final preparations are being made for the hostage and prisoner exchange between Israel and Hamas as part of their ceasefire deal. The ABC's Global Affairs editor, John Lyons, joins us now from Jerusalem. Good morning to you, John. Thanks for coming on the show. Israel's Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, has given an address to Israelis just a short time ago. What did he say?
We do.
Daniel Garb, what do you reckon? Dogs, they always bark at other dogs on the TV.
Where's the popcorn for the pooches?
Oh, now
They're all sitting there watching the movie.
There's the controversy, isn't it? Yeah. There's the controversy.
I'm not buying that. Okay. Tickets are free though.
Yeah.
So fair play. Tickets cost a lot more at the Australian Open, and why not? Alex de Minaur is the hottest ticket in town right now. He'll face American Alex Mickelson as he bids to make the quarterfinals in the title race. That's a massive moment in the Premier League this morning.
Yeah, it does seem that way. Dan, thanks very much for that.
Thank you.
Good on you, Dan. We'll talk to you a bit later on. Let's go back now to our lead story, to Jerusalem. Global Affairs editor John Lyons has been updating us on the looming ceasefire. John, hello once again. Could you just recap for us the address that Benjamin Netanyahu gave to Israelis a short time ago?
Listen, we want to know your favourite Triple J or Double J memory, so get in touch with us. It might be a song that you liked. It might be a particular moment, a particular combination, a particular DJ on Triple J. If you'd like to get involved in the discussion on Weekend Breakfast, you can always send your emails to breakfast@your.abc.net.au. You text us on 04ABC3 News. You can always join the conversation on Facebook as well. We would love to hear from you.
We've got a friend who still does the Triple J, the Hottest 100 parties.
Oh, it's iconic.
It's awesome. It's really iconic. It's a great thing, and every year I look forward to it. In fact, actually, I haven't got my invite yet.
No.
It's only next week,
so
I'm going to have to...
There you go. You got to remind them. You got to remind them. You might
the call
be
goes out now. You know who you are.
list.
You know who you are, Smithy.
Let's check the weather in the capitals now. Brisbane, you're in for some easing rain, a possible shower for Sydney, cloud clearing in Canberra, mostly sunny in Melbourne, Hobart, and in Adelaide. A sunny day expected for Perth, a shower or two with a possible storm for Darwin.
Thousands of people have taken part in a protest march in the US Capitol against Donald Trump's inauguration in just 2 days.
That's right. Now, the protesters converged on the Lincoln Memorial in an event which echoed the Women's March 8 years ago. North America correspondent Barbara Miller has the story.
Time to talk more sport. We're joined by Daniel Garb. He's going to talk us through everything Australian Open. Dan, now, Alex de Minaur, you've worked hard, he's moving through.
That he is. It was a tough encounter yesterday, an engrossing game against Argentina's Francisco.
Looking forward to it. Good on you, Dan. Thanks for keeping
us
up to date. Let's set the weather now. Here's Melissa McKay.
Hello. Conditions are easing slightly in New South Wales, but this low that's been sitting on the coast has certainly made its mark, and the chance of a shower in Darwin.
The top stories now on Weekend Breakfast. A ceasefire between Israel and Hamas is set to begin this evening, with the first set of Israeli hostages and Palestinian prisoners to be released. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says Israel is treating the truce as temporary and retains the right to continue fighting if necessary.
Clean-up efforts in New South Wales will continue today after a severe weather event was declared a natural disaster. More than 7,000 incidents were recorded across the states, with most involving damaged properties. Disaster funding has been announced for those affected.
Several thousand people have demonstrated in Washington against the imminent inauguration of President-elect Donald Trump. Women's groups have joined civil rights, environment and other activist organisations in a march against Mr. Trump and his agenda as he prepares to take office this week.
And as we've just been discussing with Dan, Australia's Alex de Minaur is through to the fourth round of the Australian Open after defeating Argentina's Francisco Cerundolo in 4 sets. The 8th seed, who is the last Australian remaining in the singles draw in Melbourne, fought back from a set down to win.
Let's now take a look at what's making headlines around the Asia-Pacific region. Let's start off with the South China Morning Post reporting that China may be a step closer to lifting its ban on Japanese seafood imports. Now, Beijing has signalled that it's keen to strengthen trade in food and agricultural products.
To the New Zealand Herald's Prime Minister Christopher Luxon will unveil changes to his cabinet today. It's understood the reshuffle will contain some big changes and one minister could lose their ministerial post.
And the Straits Times reporting on dozens of cases of foodborne illnesses being recorded in Indonesian schools just 2 weeks after the launch of the president's nutritious meal program for students. Let's go back to one of our top stories now, and as the Gaza ceasefire looms over the next few hours, there is heightened anxiety amid Israeli families who are seeking information on the loved ones who went missing since the Hamas attacks on October 7th of 2023. Well, for some, it's too late.
Gil Dickman's cousin, Carmel Gatt, was taken hostage and killed. Gil is with us now. Gil, I'm so sorry to hear what's happened to your family. It's been a real roller coaster because Carmel she's been killed, but she was not the only one taken hostage. We love Otto.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Otto has the kind of face that only a mother could love, really.
Oh, come on, father. You're a tough customer, Fauziah.
Bless Otto. Bless Otto.
The problem is it's been cute animal overload.
Yeah,
I think we've had the dogs earlier on. Or snakes, maybe not so cute.
Let's turn to sport now with Daniel Garb. Now, Dan, an Aussie abroad has delivered something special overnight. Talk to us about it.
We love Otto. We love Min Woo Lee. Good West Australian, of course, Michael, as you know, got it done. So the Reds at the top of the A-League ladder.
Fantastic. Now, Mike, we're talking about Triple J's celebrating its 50th year. What is your memory of Triple J? Your favourite memory?
I'm more of a pop music fan.
Are you
the top 100. It's always that time of the year when everyone talks about the rankings and what they think. I guess that's the memory for me. But I can't say that I fit their genre. I'm not musically savvy enough. They're way above my standard.
Look, to be honest,
I respect them enormously.
I'm with you, Dan, as well. I'm a little bit of I'm a little bit of a pop tragic myself, but the hottest 100, always good.
Yes.
Fantastic.
And we're asking what your favourite memory of Triple J is. Hear about it next hour.
Today, with hours to go until a ceasefire in Gaza, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu warns Israel reserves the right to return to war.
Storm recovery efforts begin in New South Wales after a natural disaster declaration.
A man found guilty of the rape and murder of an Indian doctor, which sparked widespread anger.
Thousands marched in the US Capitol against incoming President Donald Trump ahead of his inauguration.
Oh my God, he's missed it.
Australia's last man standing, Alex de Minaur, through to the fourth round of the Aussie Open.
And Triple J celebrates 50 years as the radio station for young Australians. Good morning. It's Sunday, the 19th of January. I'm Fauziah Ibrahim.
And I'm Michael Tetlow. You're watching Weekend Breakfast. Final preparations are being made for the hostage and prisoner exchange between Israel and Hamas as part of their ceasefire deal. The ABC's Global Affairs editor John Lyons joins us live from Jerusalem. G'day, John. Good to talk to you again. Benjamin Netanyahu has given an address to Israelis. Just bring us up to date on what he said. Time now for sports. Here's Daniel Garb. G'day, Dan.
Thankfully, we've had plenty of sport to keep us occupied amid this horrible weather across some parts of the country. Let's be honest, even if it was 30 degrees and perfect, I'd probably stay inside and watch the sport anyway, because the Australian Open is gripping at the moment, especially when the Demon is doing what he's doing right now. He'll face American lying at the top of the NBL ladder.
Good on you, Dan.
More sport coming up.
Good. Great. We'll talk to you then. Still to come on Weekend Breakfast as well. We are going to celebrate half a century of Triple J turning 50 years old.
A young 50.
A very young, very youthful. We'll look back at how it became the voice of Australia's youth.
That's right. We will have, there he is, the very first presenter on the very first program, joining us a little later in the studio this hour. His name, of course, is Holger Brockman, and he'll be taking us back to that historic moment from 1975.
I wonder if he's still got that shirt. That'd be a good one for the fancy dresses, wouldn't it?
It would be, yeah. It certainly would be, yeah.
Brilliant. But we want to know from you today, what is your favourite Triple J or Double J memory? Maybe it was a song that you remember, a particular presenter, a show, the Hottest 100 party that you'll never forget.
Yes. Well, Hottest 100, of course, it's become part of the Australian culture now, isn't it? Yeah.
It certainly has. They've been coming through on the email, on the text line, and also on our Facebook page, Fauziah. Jim says, happy birthday. Double J and, of course, Triple J, the big switch over from AM to FM. Jim's favourite presenters over the years, Arnold Frollows, Angela Cattons, Roy and HG, Robbie Buck, Helen and Mikey, I mentioned them before, Miff, of course, Will Anderson and Francis Leach.
What lovely, lovely memories. Matthew wrote in to say, being a 13-year-old in 1998 and staying up on Saturday nights to tape Mix Up. Yes. Remember that? Mix Up. There's one mix in particular, DJ March 7, a D&B set. I converted it from tape to an MP3 years
That's dedication.
later, and still listen to it regularly.
Yeah,
wow.
okay,
Lovely.
all right. Michelle says, Mikey Robbins and Helen Razors come up again. Merrick and Rosso were the best.
Yeah.
Like a version, awesome. And Kerry also has put some of her memories, Double J's on from cassette to MP3. She listens to them in the car. Yeah. Loved the comedy series Brunswick Heads Revisited.
That was great, yeah. Cassettes, remember them?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, because they're coming back apparently.
Apparently they are. All right, let us know what you think. Breakfast at your.abc.net.au, also Facebook and the text line, which is there on your screen.
Do join the conversation. For now, we're going to check the weather in the capitals. Rain easing in Brisbane. A possible shower expected in Sydney. Cloud clearing in Canberra. Melbourne, Hobart and Adelaide. Well, you're in for a mostly sunny day. A sunny day also expected in Perth. A shower or two with a possible storm expected in Darwin.
Thousands of people have taken part in a protest march in the US Capitol against Donald Trump's inauguration, which is happening it's happening in a day or two.
Yeah, exactly. Now, the protesters converged on the Lincoln Memorial in an event which echoed the Women's March 8 years ago. North America correspondent Barbara Miller reports.
Time now for more sport. Daniel Garb, you are having a close look at the women's Ashes for us today.
Why not?
Yeah,
Australia's dominating. So there's plenty to savour from an Aussie point of view. That's after the ODI series. Australia has managed to sweep those. So they are 6 points up in the women's Ashes. Lachlan McCurdy from the Daily Telegraph's been good enough to join me to go through the series as it stands as we move on to the T20 format, Lachlan, tomorrow night at the SCG. But Australia in full control. Just break down for us why they've been able to be so dominant so far over the old enemy. Looking forward to the T20 starting tomorrow night. Plenty more sport coming up throughout the morning.
Dan, thanks very much for that. The top stories now on Weekend Breakfast, and a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas is set to begin this evening with the first set of Israeli hostages and Palestinian prisoners to be released. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says Israel is treating the truce as temporary and retains the right to continue fighting if necessary.
Clean-up efforts in New South Wales will continue today after a severe weather event was declared a natural disaster. More than 7,000 incidents were recorded across the state, with most involving damaged properties. Disaster funding has been announced for those affected.
And several thousand people have demonstrated in Washington against the imminent inauguration of President-elect Donald Trump. Women's groups have joined civil rights, environment and other activist organisations in a march against Mr. Trump and his agenda as he prepares to take office this week.
And Australia's Alex de Minaur is through to the fourth round of the Australian Open after defeating Argentina's Francisco Cerundolo in 4 sets. The 8th seed, who is the last Australian remaining in the singles draw in Melbourne, fought back from a set down to win.
And let's now take a look at what's making headlines in Australia's newspapers and online this morning. We're going to start off with the Sydney Morning Herald reporting on Bill Shorten's parting words as the Minister for NDIS. Now, he says the scheme is credited with boosting jobs growth and that its impact will be up there with universal superannuation and Medicare.
The Advertiser has a story on South Australia's youth crime rate, which has skyrocketed by 140% in the past 6 years. Frustrated police are pointing the finger at irresponsible parenting.
And in the weekend, Australian Health Minister Mark Butler will announce today that pregnant women will be offered free RSV vaccines from February as part of the National Immunisation Program.
And back to the Sydney Morning Heralds, who are reporting, along with many others, that TikTok, the social media platform, will go dark in the United States unless President Joe Biden intervenes. Let's have a bit more of a chat about that one and a few of the other stories making headlines. We are joined by Noreen Young, who is the Associate Dean of Indigenous Leadership and Engagement at University of Technology, Sydney. G'day, Noreen. Thanks for coming.
Good morning.
Welcome.
It's a pleasure.
Yes, now this is an interesting one, isn't it? And we're getting closer and closer to the possibility of TikTok going dark in the US.
Listen to Triple J's when you find a band and then they go on to big things. So you hear them first on Triple J.
Yes.
That's happened numerous times. I think Powderfinger was one for me.
Yes.
And they go on to bigger things and you remember where you first heard them and you stake that claim.
Yes, rusted on Triple J listeners will say with great delight and glee to commercial radio listeners, they've been on Triple J.
Yeah.
I heard them before they were big. You're a bandwagon jumper. That sort of stuff, right? That's a hallmark of Triple J listening.
All right, so from music to sport, what have you got for us, Dan?
Well, this is music to the ears of the BBL organisers.
Nice segue.
Set up for an epic finish. Never Walk Alone, of course.
Right.
Of course.
Maybe they'll be singing it at the end of the season. They're in a good spot at the moment.
All right,
Yeah.
Dan,
Did
thanks
Triple
very
J
much.
first play that one? Probably did.
Do stick around here on Weekend Breakfast. In the next hour, we're going to be looking at President-elect Donald Trump's inauguration, which is just days away.
And we'll cross live to Washington to look at what a second Trump term means for the US. Not just for the US, for the world and for us here in Australia.
Today, with hours to go until a ceasefire in Gaza, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu warns Israel reserves the right to return to war.
Storm recovery efforts begin in New South Wales after a natural disaster declaration.
A man found guilty of the rape and murder of an Indian doctor, which sparked widespread anger.
Thousands march in the US Capitol against incoming President Donald Trump ahead of his inauguration.
Oh my God, he's missed it.
Australia's last man standing, Alex de Minaur, through to the fourth round of the Aussie Open.
And Triple J celebrates 50 years as the radio station for young Australians.
Good morning. It's Sunday, the 19th of January. I'm Fauziah Ibrahim.
And I'm Michael Tetlow. This is Weekend Breakfast. Final preparations are being made for the hostage and prisoner exchange between Israel and Hamas as part of their ceasefire deal.
Now, all this comes as Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu warns that the truce is temporary and that Israel reserves the right to return to fighting. Our Global Affairs editor, John Lyons, has more from Jerusalem.
Time now for sports with Daniel Garb. Dan, it's all about the tennis.
Yeah, we're building up to another big day from Melbourne Park, but we're also just breathing a sigh of relief that Alex de Minaur was able to get through to the fourth round, because it was challenging for him early yesterday against Argentine Francisco Cerundolo. He'll now be behind Perth after the defeat. More sport coming up throughout the morning. A big chat on the Aussie Open, not too far away.
Good,
Right.
looking forward to it. Thank you, Dan. We are saying a very happy birthday today to Triple J, celebrating 50 years, half a century. First went here as Double J.
Yeah.
It's a brand new radio station at the time.
Yes, exactly. The voice of young Australians.
Onto the email, breakfast@your.abc.net.au, News Breakfast on Facebook, or you can text 04 ABC3 News.
We would love to hear from you. Now stay with us here on Weekend Breakfast. Still to come in this hour, it is his second time around in the White House. We are, of course, talking about President-elect Donald Trump. Now his inauguration is just days away, but celebrations and protests have already begun. This is ahead of the official ceremony.
We're going to have a look at what a second Trump term means for the US and for the world.
That's right. A lot of trepidation, but also a lot of I think some foreboding, perhaps, but then, you also have the President-elect Trump's supporters who say it is time for a shake-up of the US politics.
Many people are saying that. Either way, Fauziah, it's going to be interesting.
It will be. It will be. For now, we're going to check the weather in the capitals for you. Rain easing in Brisbane. Possible shower expected in Sydney, cloud clearing in Canberra, mostly sunny in Melbourne, in Hobart and in Adelaide as well. A sunny day expected for Perth, a shower or two with a possible storm in Darwin.
Authorities in Ukraine say 3 people have been killed in a Russian missile attack in the centre of Kiev.
Well, President Volodymyr Zelensky says residential buildings, shops and cafes were hit. Russia claims the target was a missile factory.
Time now to talk sport. Here's Daniel Garb.
Thank you very much. Let's have another close look at the Australian Open, because Alex de Minaur is certainly grabbing the attention of the nation. He's through to the fourth round, where hopefully he can make it through to the quarterfinals for the first time in his career, but it won't be easy. His next opponent is tough. Australian Open keeping us very busy. Another big week coming up from Melbourne Park.
Dan, thanks very much.
Good on you, Dan. Thank you. We'll talk to you a bit later on the top stories on Weekend Breakfast. A ceasefire between Israel and Hamas is set to begin this evening, with the first set of Israeli hostages and Palestinian prisoners to be released. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says Israel is treating the truce as temporary and retains the right to continue fighting if necessary.
Clean-up efforts in New South Wales will continue today after a severe weather event was declared a natural disaster. More than 7,000 incidents were recorded across the state this weekend, with most involving damaged properties. Disaster funding has been announced for those affected.
Several thousand people have demonstrated in Washington against the imminent inauguration of Donald Trump. Women's groups have joined civil rights, environmental and other activist organisations in a march against Mr. Trump and his agenda as he prepares to take office this week.
And Australia's Alex de Minaur is through to the fourth round of the Australian Open after defeating Argentina's Francisco Cerundolo in 4 sets. The 8th seed, who is the last Australian remaining in the singles draw in Melbourne, fought back from a set down to win.
Thousands of people, as we've mentioned, have taken part in a protest march through the US Capitol against Donald Trump's inauguration in just a couple of days.
The protesters converged on the Lincoln Memorial in an event which echoed the Women's March 8 years ago. Our North America correspondent Barbara Miller has the story. That was Holger Brockman there. It is time now to talk sport with Daniel Garb. Now, Dan, an Aussie abroad has delivered something special overnight.
This is a magical moment from Min Woo Lee, one of our favourites. That's all in sport for now.
Good on you, Dan. Thank you.
Yes, stick around. On Weekend Breakfast, we'll have more of the latest top stories in just a moment. Do stay with us.
Today, with hours to go until a ceasefire in Gaza, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu warns Israel reserves the right to return to war.
2 people missing, several others rescued as the storm recovery effort continues in New South Wales.
Thousands march in the US Capitol against Donald Trump ahead of his inauguration.
Oh my God, he's missed it.
Australia's last man standing, Alex de Minaur, through to the 4th round of the Aussie Open. Very good morning to you. It is Sunday, the 19th of January. I'm Fauziah Ibrahim.
And I'm Michael Tetlow. You're watching Weekend Breakfast. Final preparations are being made for the hostage and prisoner exchange between Israel and Hamas as part of their ceasefire deal.
Well, it comes as Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu warns that the truce is temporary and that Israel reserves the right to return to fighting. The ABC's Global Affairs editor John Lyons has more from Jerusalem. Lovely, isn't it?
Certainly is.
So
Time
nice.
to talk sport. Daniel Garb, hello Dan.
Good morning. Yeah, the Demon. He was a bit nervy yesterday. His 3rd round encounter against Tetlow of Argentina. He was tested early, but he prevailed.
Dan, thanks very much.
Time to check the weather now. Here's Melissa McKay.
Hello. Conditions are easing slightly in New South Wales, but this low that's been sitting on the coast has certainly made its mark. Partly cloudy in Canberra, Hobart, Melbourne and Adelaide. Mostly sunny in Perth and the chance of a shower in Darwin.
Mel, thanks very much. Thank you for your company on Weekend Breakfast. Michael, thank you so much for being on Weekend
Thank you for
Breakfast.
having me these last couple of weekends. I'll be back on the ABC News channel and ABC TV with late news this coming week. See you then.
See ya.
The Eagle has landed.